Hello, and welcome to the Grove podcast and the North Bank podcast, Post City pre-Newcastle transfer deadline day live stream. Yeah, can't get my words out. I have no idea how this is going to go, and I think it's already falling to pieces, especially if last night's test run's got anything to go by, because it involved a confusing 20-second delay, my son, and a cat trapped outside my first floor window. So I think who knows what's going to happen tonight. But let's see. Let's have a bit of fun. If anyone watches, more for you, and if they don't, well, we're recording this as a pod anyway. So there we go. Look, before we get into the meat of today, joining us is Holly and Stef on the North Bank pod. How are you guys doing? How's your day been? And are you still buzzing from yesterday?
Stef?
Well, I'm still buzzing, and my voice is just about holding up after shouting all very polite words aimed at Erling Haaland, obviously.
Unbroadcastable, probably.
Look, I'm all for it.
I wasn't at the game, and I'm still buzzing, but I'm now curious about how the cat is.
The cat was fine. We don't have a cat flap, so we leave the window open downstairs. But my wife shut it because it was too cold, because we're heating the garden more than inside. So then the cat saw the light, and it was on the roof of the garage out the back, and it was sort of just looking at me, just sort of like with his eyes. And I've got all this shit in the way, so I had to clear all this shit. I find the key for the window. Then anyway, the cat's fine. It's sleeping on our bed. It's sleeping on our bed as we are. Good stuff. Okay, cool. So we're on cat talk this week. No, we have Jamie, as always. How you doing? You good? How's the stag do? And did you bump into Alan Partridge at the Travel Lodge?
I'm tired, put it that way. Stag do followed by watching the Arsenal first half in the pub and the second half in a taxi, and then feeling the need to rewatch it the entire night in a Travel Lodge. It's taking its toll, but I'm here. I'm alive. I'm telling the story. And I'm quite glad that I didn't make the decision that I suggested, where I was going to stand outside the Emirates during this.
Yes.
As much as it is a short walk, and it's not a walk I'm up for at this point, and I feel like if I committed to it, I would,
Sorry about that, but you may get
more than I did when I was at the Newcastle game in the Emirates. Take it that way.
You may get an aubergine arriving at your door very soon, though. Unfortunately, sorry about that. Look it up, kids. Right. Anyway, so look. The idea of today is to, it was meant to be a transfer day, deadline day podcast. But also then we were going to use it to chat about the City game, and then the forthcoming Newcastle game, or the miracle and the Tyne, as I'm calling it. But we really do have to start off with, I guess, the elephant in the room, that we haven't made any transfers. How are you feeling about that, guys? Holly, go on. I'll give you the floor. I've got lots to say. I could easily say lots, but what have you got? How are you feeling? What's your thoughts?
Okay, resignation. A couple of days ago.
Arteta?
I want it now. Hashtag central. Yes. So, look. I think the writing was on the wall for a while, that we weren't really going to, despite Arteta. I mean, I'm curious as to how Arteta's feeling with no incoming players. Now, the thing is, we've got 5 league games between now and the end of March, plus 2 Champions League ties. It's not a huge, jam-packed schedule. Saka might be back by the end of March. I don't know how he's doing in his rehab, and I don't know his kind of expected return date. Nwaneri, his output is such that may have given the club pause for some kind of thought. Just a little stat on him: goals per minute in the Premier League for players who've scored at least 500, played at least 500 minutes. He's top of the pile. He's almost averaging a goal a game, like 0.97 goals per 90 minutes. He's above Isak, Salah and Haaland. Now, they've obviously played a lot more minutes. And I'm not saying he needs to play every game, Nwaneri. I actually obviously don't think he should. He's only 17. We've seen the damage that does, to a young Jack Wilshere. But so the question is, do you go? And this was interesting. It's that old NLP thing, you know. It's like, I want a striker, any striker, and Arsenal called my bluff when they put in a bid for Ollie Watkins for £60 million, because all of a sudden I was like,
But not that striker.
yeah, not that striker,
Not that one.
If it, like, just on the basis of, well, actually, he's not the most clinical, but also he's 29, and that's a lot of money. And if it was to take away from the number one target in the summer, so yeah, like I'm torn. I think we'll regret it. Even as recently as yesterday's game, and it seems quite churlish to say anything negative about yesterday. But if you look through my little kind of brief note taking as the game was progressing, there was a quite a large portion of negative comments or concerned comments. Havertz's miss. My comment was, "Where's that striker?" And it's like, I think it didn't cost us yesterday, but it cost us against Villa. It cost us against Brighton. You could say it will cost us again. I fear that's so. I think it's a mismanaged summer transfer. That's my issue. Is what happened in the summer or didn't happen in the summer, as opposed to what hasn't happened in January. And you look at hardly anybody's, but signed anybody. So
no, I agree. Just one thing on, and I'll come to you, Jamie, next. One thing on that. Remember when we played Villa, and what Watkins did? He missed something a lot worse than what Havertz did yesterday. So they all do it. I think for me it's more important that they get the chances and they're there and they're creating the chances and the all round thing. So I'm not taking it away, but Watkins can also miss chances as well. So Jamie, how are you feeling? Can you understand it? Can you apply any context, or do you have the sort of same fear for this season that it might come back to bite us in the arse?
Bit of all of the above, to be honest. So, I mean, it might come back to bite us in the arse. If we'd have got a striker, then I think we'd be in a much better position. If we'd have got a left winger, I think we'd be in a better position. If we'd have got, all sorts of reinforcements would help at this particular point in time. I sort of reiterate what I've iterated a whole bunch of times in reflecting on the summer window, reflecting on windows past that at least at this particular point in time, in order to get the quality of player that we're after, the deals are more complex, the deals are more expensive, the risks are so much greater. The floor that we're looking for is much higher, and the ceiling that we're looking for is much higher. All of those things are extremely difficult to find, I think, especially in a January transfer window, because you're ultimately looking to put in a player and know that the club's only got, or the club that's selling knows they've got a limited amount of time for them to go and find a player. And yeah, it's difficult as compared to picking somebody up early in the summer that you generally tend to see with the marquee signings. I would have loved, conversely, I would have absolutely loved Watkins. I'm going to be honest. I adore him. But I do understand the concerns around his age, etc. But I think he's a win-now player. I think he would have been phenomenal for that. But I think pie in the sky to expect him to come over. The way I generally tend to look at a lot of windows in terms of evaluating whether it feels like the club's done really badly is just looking at other players on the move and saying, is there anybody there that I feel that we should have got? And I think that's probably the most interesting lens I can apply to it at the moment. And to be honest, there's not really. John Duran was someone who was a bit of an outside bet, but I mean, the guy has not played a great deal of Premier League football. There is not many minutes under his belt. There's not a great deal of data. And in particular, I've got concerns around his all-round game. And I think, otherwise, what other names have been on the move that we should have grabbed? There's Tell that's, going to go to Tottenham or United. And if I'm frank, he looks like a gamble. I really like him from what I've seen of him, but he's a gamble. He's exactly the same problems, not huge amounts of data. He's not finished product. So have we really missed out? Was there somebody available? Because normally if there is somebody available that is of that level that we're looking for, they join a great team.
Oh, Holly's got his hand up. Go. What's up? Is it breaking news? Is it Rob Holding going to Sheffield United?
Yes, I've had that written down as well. Do you think the fact that we've already got 2 Premier League loans has kind of handicapped us? Because, and I know, Steph, what your views on this are, but we've seen Rashford and Ferguson move on loan. Now,
go on, Steph. Go. I'll add to that. So, do you think that but also who do you think's to? Is there blame to be held about this, about the fact that we haven't done anything here? You know, do we need to find a scapegoat, or is it just transfers are hard?
I think first and foremost, transfers are hard. I think what Holly was noting that I was shaking my head at is just the mention of Rashford.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Not the 2 loan thing. Okay.
I'm very much against, the idea of Rashford coming in, because that kind of project is, it's annoying. Look, there is definitely a question to be asked about the 2 loans, because look at them. Neto, cup tied, Sterling, disappointing, and reasonably expensive. So that is, but Rashford, just not for me.
And so here's one. Do you think the fact that we lost, couple of things here then for you, Steph. Do you think the Edu moving on for whatever reasons, I think it's more from his career perspective. I think it hit a ceiling and he had a good opportunity. So do you think that has impacted things? I forgot what my second question was. So, I think, do you think that's had an influence on our transfer strategy?
I think it has to have done to a certain extent, and especially given that we've essentially promoted from within this Jason Ato guy, I think it is. I personally don't know what his background is. We don't know what his connections are, but they're not going to be the same channels and the same network that Edu had. So it's ultimately trying to build then new relationships, one would imagine, that perhaps, we wouldn't necessarily be able to do. And like you say, because it felt like, Edu did the whole thing about Sterling, about seizing the opportunity, the fact that there was an opportunity there and we took it. So then maybe, as you say, Evan Ferguson going to West Ham.
He's £100 million player 18 months ago.
This is the thing. And
but he's injured.
But they want a team to play him back into form. He's not looked good when he's been playing for Brighton, and they're looking for a team that's going to play him regularly. And if you're dumping in our team at the moment, the question is, do you want a guy who's barely played and barely scored for the last 12 months? I would love him as a permanent signing if we picked him up to be a number 2 striker and we tried to develop him. But I don't think at the moment, I don't actually think he's that much more impressive than a Folarin Balogun, to be completely frank. I don't think he's actually that, there's a load in his bag. He's looked really good at certain times in purple patches, but he is a long way away from someone you drop into this team under this pressure and expect him to play all the time. And if I'm Brighton, I'm going to protect the player and go, I'm going to send him to West Ham. I want him to go play 90 minutes for the majority of the next few weeks until the end of the season. And come back to us as a better player, because there's no permanent deal in sight on that deal.
I'd be curious. I'm prepared to look upon every single Rashford goal from now on and think, damn it. Having said that, Villa have to play Liverpool yet, so that's good. They're done with. They can't harm us. So
now Rashford, you can debate. I think there's a player in there. I think. Mentally he's gone up, but we're not in the job of rehabilitating. I think at the moment, I think the main thing is we didn't just want a body. We either get a youth player, and it becomes part of this. You cannot stockpile enough quality youth players in the team that you can potentially resell, and there wasn't really anything out there. If Tottenham's the only choice, then I think we've made the right decision. And then, as Jamie said, I think, who has gone, and this is why it's not like just going to the shops, and just, I will buy that. There's 3 parties involved: the player, the club buying, and the club selling. And if one of those falls down, you're not getting the player. The only thing is that what we can't do, then the likes of City or Chelsea can do, is they will pay well over the odds to get someone in, and unfortunately we are not in that position to do that. We can't do that.
Okay.
If we'd have given Villa 80 million, Watkins would be ours. Okay, but we're not going to spend 80 million on Watkins. If we gave RB Leipzig 80 million for Sesko, he'd be ours if he wanted to come. There's so many things. So I think when you see other deals happening, they happen for a reason. Yeah.
Okay, but look, the problem isn't this January.
You're right.
3 or 4 podcasts ago,
Yeah.
the start of I said on our podcast,
Is this your famous tweet?
I read out a line I'd put out 3 years ago with 5 days remaining of the January transfer window. You never know. We might get the striker we so desperately need. That was 3 years ago. It was the 26th of January, 2022. And so, like, we're having to kind of intellectualize where we are right now. But the issue isn't, right, I understand everything you've said. I agree with everything you've said. But, you know, the problem's been a long time in the making.
Yeah, I see it. It's just the way the club. I think you're right. The summer business has then sold us short for this business. But then again, you know, you're not expecting your best player to get injured. You're not expecting another knee injury against Jesus. Pre-season was looking strong and would be a creditable forward. You know, so and okay. So let's bring this round, and we'll bring it around to the City game. Let's look on the positive side of things, or let's actually just put this into context. You know, we are still a very, very good team. We're second in the league, 9 points above City, clearly second. We came third in the Champions League, you know, and we've qualified without having to go through those nonsense rounds. We're in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. It's going to be difficult, but not doable. Look what's happened now with Ranieri coming through and the opportunity he's had. We just humbled City without Saka. We beat them 5-1 without Bukayo Saka, and we beat them last year without Bukayo Saka. So maybe he's the problem. But but you know, so let's do that. Okay, we would like a strike. And now I think the biggest fear factor is if Havertz gets injured, what the fuck are we going to do? That is the one thing. But there was no one to get. What do we do? Unless you literally pay 80 million and then we go in the summer. Well, sorry, we couldn't buy anyone because we spent it all there. So yeah, great. We got second again because even with buying a striker, our chances of pulling back Liverpool are still long. You know, so and the way it is, I think the club just basically did the pros and cons. They looked at the risks and said, you know what, it's a bigger risk for us to overspend and get someone in now to disrupt the squad or doesn't fit into the squad than it is to try and ride this out and ride our luck and then maybe, you know, given the circumstances, and then we go again next year. Sometimes seasons happen like that. Sometimes you just have a season where shit happens and we have to just write it off and we go again.
How do you square all of that with Arteta's very enthusiastic comments about wanting to get another striker or an attacking player?
No. I'm not saying we didn't want one, but we're not going to.
Do you think he expected us to get one?
We're not going to change our plans or change them significantly just for one window and just to potentially claw back a 9-point gap on Liverpool. And that's the way they're thinking. It's just a business decision, I think, at the end of the day.
I think to be fair, I think he definitely wants one. I think it's very clear that the club know that that's what they need to bring in. And I think it's the first time that I've ever felt reassured on that, actually. Because in fairness, you can say about the tweet 3 years ago, but we got the striker of our dreams about 6 months after that, didn't we? When we signed Jesus, and he looked great for about 6 months. And then it started running out of steam a bit, and then it started becoming really bad. And now he's, you know, unavailable anyway. But we did go out and sign a number 9 who was supposedly going to start for us and looked like he was worthy of starting for us for some time. But since then, you know, we haven't necessarily seen any desire to definitely bring in somebody. I wasn't even that convinced during the summer. And I wasn't even that convinced it was a top priority. I always felt left wing was. And I still wonder if left wing is, to be completely frank. We're a few poor Kai performances and a Gabby Jesus injury into saying that it's striker that we need so desperately. But to me, the worst performances in the team consistently for quite some time have been all from left wing, with the exception of the other night. But yeah, I think there's definitely a feeling that it's pretty clear the club are going after it. And so I'm pretty reassured that in the summer we will get him. It feels crap at the moment because it does, as you say, Kai Havertz gets injured. We are really, really looking weak. Arteta's even talked about putting Ranieri at 9, which as much as MLS has played, you know, he played about 7-8 months at left back before he came into the first team. I've never seen Ethan Nwaneri on a team sheet at striker whatsoever. And I've seen no trace in George Bird's Arsenal that he has ever played at striker. So, it's not good.
Go on, Steph. Someone's put in the comments negligence.
The negligence isn't necessarily this window. It's previous ones. The squad building was maybe just slightly emphasised, one way or the other in various places, which is why we've ended up with a dearth of left backs rather than anything else. And that's as much about selling the ones that suddenly became superfluous to our plans and our tactics than it is, replacing others. No, but then it's the balance, isn't it? We as fans, we want something for the here and now. That is always the clamour. And Watkins could be that player for now. Sesko could have been perhaps that player for the summer, gone or in the future. Nico Williams was a player I really liked, but his form seems to have fallen off a cliff. But with young players, you will get that kind of peak and trough, and then maybe a plateau. So I think for me as well is I didn't read it, but I certainly saw sort of headlines and comments about Arsenal's search for this Goldilocks striker, which probably doesn't quite exist. And there probably needs to be an acceptance that we're going to get a player, we're going to evolve them the way Xhaka evolved into the left eight, the way Hazard.
Isak.
Well, I mean, Isak is probably the Goldilocks player, but he's going to cost the price of gold in order to get...
are Newcastle going to sell him to us?
They're not going to sell him to us because they just don't like us and things like that. He's on a 4-year contract. They probably are in with a shout of top 5. Nothing is at all decided in that race for top 5 because of this extra place that we'll get. Because City, I keep expecting City to go on a run because I've been conditioned that way. But it's just you're waiting for it to happen. But Newcastle are in the offing, Villa are in the offing, Chelsea were playing this evening. They were leading when I last checked on them playing West Ham. So there's a lot of competition for there. If Newcastle drop out of the top 5, Isak can certainly rejoin the conversation, I'm sure, because the player will probably want it, even if Newcastle don't.
The player needs to force it out. But then if we go in for it, other players is... we have a bit more, coming through for the chat. So we've got Ask Cannon Picks. I'll say formerly Obvious Parish. He might return. Ian Jenkinson. He was saying he'd rather damage, in inverted commas, this season by signing no one than the next 3 seasons by spending irresponsibly. I tend to agree. And others are sort of calling out, that this is Nwaneri's breakthrough season. This is an opportunity. Arteta talks about it. Someone's, misfortune is another person's opportunity. Unfortunately, Gary Neville seems to be agreeing with us. So that always makes me question if I'm on the right side of the discussion, if I'm agreeing with Gary Neville. But he's just posted he can understand why Arsenal didn't sign a striker, which... Yeah, it's a bit like agreeing with Jamie O'Hara last week about the red card. It's like it just doesn't feel right. So look,
can I ask? Would we feel, or would I feel this way if we were 6 points behind City?
I would suggest not because of the history, and you think, it's not going to happen. I think there's a lot of what's gone on this season that is influencing our emotions about it, and we haven't got over the fact that because City are not there, we should be, and that's it, and it's that should. It's the should. It's the worst word in the world, should, and you as English teachers should know this because it just makes so many assumptions and it forgets context and all the rest of it, and people hate me because I'm all about the context, and or for many reasons, to be honest, but we should be this, well, yeah, but we're not, and you can explain it away, the shit refereeing decisions, the shit injuries, and just Liverpool seem to be on a crest of a wave. And good luck to them. They've paid their dues. I don't begrudge them at all. But you're right. I think you've really summed it up. Our emotions are all tied into the fact it's Liverpool at the top and not City. If it was City, we can accept it because, like every year, whenever they won the league, no one gave a crap. Everyone just said, oh well. it's 115 charges. It's this. Yes, granted they've got good players and all the rest of it, but we can write it off. And I think that's a really good point, Holly. I think it's just down to that. And Steph, I see you nodding away.
Well, yeah, and then there are other factors, because I actually think our desperation for a signing was probably at the start of the window. Jesus's injury really was the sign that the squad was going to fatigue. We had this fixture pile up in January that we've had to navigate with the blips in the cup, as well as the draw with Villa. But like you can also say, and you're absolutely right, Tubbs, to talk about the context, because whether it's the sporting director looking at the fixtures that are coming up, and therefore the owners looking at the kind of risk reward of the spend, there is going to be an easing off of fixtures and fatigue in the legs of them. There will be one or two players returning. Ben White hopefully sooner rather than later. Saka, all right.
Can he play centre forward?
Could be another month away. But
Put Gabriel up top.
Gabriel up top. I mean, he was essentially playing winger at times against Man City. So why not? It's the flip of the coin, and I think, like you say, that the league and who it is instead of City at the top has made us want that. But it also now will put pressure on the club to make something happen in the summer, because, like you say, the striker has been an issue for quite a while. But as you said, Jamie, that the left side has not been brilliant. It feels like Martinelli has maybe reached a certain level. Trossard flips in and out, has good moment. He played very well against City, I felt, on Sunday. But there have been sort of dead spots in his form as well. So the squad still needs a little bit of rejigging here. The other thing, and I thought this earlier, is especially with these opportunistic deals and taking a risk on it, we are also still very, very good. So it's not a case of just having a body to take the energy out of the legs, because we need to keep such a level of quality in the team that, we'd love a player to be around to take the burden off Havertz for a game. But Havertz is so integral to the team sort of playing well and functioning, mischances aside, that actually it's probably not worth the risk at the minute. So I sort of get it.
And that's to Jamie's point. It's about raising. We can't find that ceiling raiser, so the person we do get has to be a floor raiser, and there just isn't anyone out there. And then it just ends up being a body that you've got to find room for, takes up spots. So yeah.
Can I ask people, remember, we had a massive need in 94, 95 for a striker, right? Because that was the season that we lost Alan Smith to injury and ultimately never returned from. Kevin Campbell was itching to get out. And we went out and signed two strikers. And do you remember who they were?
Suka?
Well, I remember one.
No, that's about 4 years later. But yeah, close.
Well,
close in terms of input. No, it wasn't. That was in 95, 96 pre-season. We went out and signed. He signed under Bruce Rioch, but no. Under Stuart Houston that season, we went out and signed Chris Kiwomia.
My lord.
We paid a couple of £1 million for at the time as well.
I've got his little big
from Ipswich. Was that from Ipswich? Was that from Ipswich?
No, and the other one we signed was John Artson. And neither of them, I mean, I loved Big John in lots of ways because he was a bit of a nutcase, but neither of them could absolutely get anywhere near what Alan Smith did for us, right? No. Neither of them fitted our needs, and both of them are pretty naff, to be completely frank, and found their level pretty soon afterwards. Kiwomia went on to play for almost nobody. John Artson went on to play for West Ham, Wimbledon and Coventry. And then in the summer, we went and signed Dennis Bergkamp. And that, I think, is probably what I'm hoping for, is that the opportunities could have been there for the opportunistic players that are having a bit of a purple patch or that need a bit of rejuvenating or whatever it might be, but that we're looking to make a step up. My hope is that in the summer we go and get somebody. All right, saying Dennis Bergkamp's probably hoping a little bit too much. Asking for us to get my greatest ever Arsenal footballer, as far as I'm concerned. But somebody at least anyway who's got the quality to come in and be a real game changer and a ceiling raiser, which he was, because then that was a player that was better than Alan Smith, that was better than the need that we had, and it was transformative, and that's what I'm really hoping for. And I hope we've dodged a bullet and we've dodged a Chris Kawamia and John Hart bullet, is what I'm really hoping.
Have you got any ideas as to who that Dennis Bergkamp player is?
I'll be honest, I don't think I do, because I look at, and I think that's one of the things I find most confusing in the market at the moment. I mean, funny enough, I was browsing a podcast earlier that I wish I got to listen to today and didn't get the chance to, which was an athletic podcast, I think, going on about what's happened to number 9s the world over, basically. And I need to give it a listen, but it's been my thought for quite some time. Who is the next Lewandowski? You know, it might be Gyökeres, but...
Well, not Gyökeres. I think Sesko. I think Sesko's the one. I think Sesko is
really good. Yeah, maybe
he's rough around the edges, and he's you pay the money because you will recoup that either in goals or transfer fee, and I think maybe we've lined him up for the summer. So he's our development player, and I think potentially there seems to be enough smoke there, or fire, or whichever it is, whatever the terminology is. But there seems to be enough there that we talked in the past. If okay, no, I don't want to come now. You ready to come now? No. Right, we'll get you in the summer. So I think there's one there. I think he's the next potential one. He can hit the hell out of a ball. He's just very rough around the edges. I mean, look, as Ian said, it could be worse. We could be signing Willian again. He's going back to Fulham. And my mate Martin Parrish texted me and said, "Why haven't you signed Chris Woods yet?"
I'd take him, mind.
He's just having one of those seasons, and he'll just go back to being bang.
10, 15 minutes of a game.
Forest
when he needed,
we've got great crosser in the ball. Would you not put Chris Wood in there for the last 10, 15 minutes?
When he needed to score one goal last season, a bloody open goal. He just had to do one thing last season. Couldn't fucking hit a barn door with a banjo. So I'm not for that. I never want
flashbacks.
him. I mean, I wouldn't take him at 50 million is the problem. I'd take him on a free transfer, right? And that's that's another part of the problem. Even those opportunistic signings these days aren't cheap, are they?
No, they're not. Well, the young ones, you have to pay the high price because you might recoup that, and the old ones who've been there, you're paying a high price. So you really, it's nuts. So look, where we are now, I think. Thoughts. My son just messaged me on the chat. He's just next door, right? Anyways, I lost my train of thought. But look, I think we've come to the conclusion that there's no point buying anyone just for the sake of buying anyone, just to satisfy some arbitrary need. I know we do need a striker. I think we tried. We couldn't get what we wanted within our means. It has to be caveated within our means, and we just have to live with it and move on. And they have to ride this out because it could go bad, and there's going to be. And I understand why fans will be angry, and I understand completely why you'd be frustrated and annoyed and think just get the checkbook out and all the rest of it. But I also think it's just not that easy. So look, I want to. I think we've ended it quite all right. I want to move on to happier. More fun things. There was an amazing game yesterday, and I think we're going to have two very good perspectives because Steph, you were there, and I was there, and Jamie and Holly watching. Unfortunately, having to put up with Gary Neville, but watching at home, we absolutely everyone yesterday was like, we just want to beat. It was the most nervous I've been before a game in a long, long time. I had butterflies. I wasn't hungry. And it was, I think, the most nervous we've been for a long time. And it was one, we said it before, so it has to be true afterwards.
Sorry to interrupt, Tabs. Can I just ask, why were you nervous? What was motivating that?
What was motivating them? Because I wanted to beat them so much. It's because of what happened.
Or not, definitely good. I'm glad you agree.
It's not the league. So I was going to finish.
Disappeared.
No. And this is why it needs to maintain true afterwards. This was more than the league. This was about beating City, payback all the years, and just wanting to. We've earned this, and I wrote in this instant response that I do, like, this team earned and deserved this win, and the way they won it, and it was super. But I was really nervous. I didn't give a shit about the league. I just wanted to beat them. It was the number one thing I wanted to do. And I was also nervous because if we lost to them, knew what was going to happen today, Newcastle, the fallout I just can't be asked dealing with that. I'd just like turn off everything because that would be just horrendous. So, and I'm glad you feel the same way, and I think maybe a lot of people did. And in the pub when we were chatting, I think it was just we just so want to beat them. The league can go and do one. We just need to beat them. The fact that we won and we're 9 points ahead, keeping up with Liverpool as best we can, that's great. But the win was the most important thing.
Can I just say, look, I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit, okay?
Good.
But doesn't that sounds to me like a Spurs fan talking about an Arsenal game?
Yep.
Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's like that. It's more than just the league, Because and the thing is, if everything you do as a fan is all down to how you do in the league, then you are going to be upset practically every year. So you've got to enjoy the games, you've got to enjoy the moments, and you've got to want those moments, and then the rest takes care of itself. If it's just all about, it's just another 3 points.
But you can have both.
You
can want to win the league.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't want to
beat City equally.
Yeah, maybe, but no. But but Steph asked me, and my feeling was just about City.
If my feelings were on a seesaw, it was just like that. It was just tipped one edge, and like you say, because I of course we all want to win the league and do that, but beating City didn't harm that. And it wasn't even necessarily beating City; it was just beating Haaland. Like what he did was so lacking in class and grace, and I think that's why. Look, don't get me wrong. I've said this on our pod several times that you show me a good loser and you see a loser, but there's ways of doing things, and what he did was just so horrible. And since then, I've heard, because I've had my in-laws round this evening, and my father-in-law, he's always over Talk Sport and what the rhetoric is on all these things.
God.
And he's like, hey, what's this about Haaland's? What's this about Haaland's dad? Like saying that we need to be nicer to Erling, and I was like, oh fuck. Is this true? Apparently, this is the case. Like he's been outspoken saying it was unfair, the stuff he got to him. I was like, I'm not being funny. He sort of did it himself a little bit, and it was a petty rivalry, and I don't really care because I suppose Man City fans as well will probably adopt the position where they look down on us. And so we've got that little bit of underdog kind of scrappy-do kind of spirit because I'm sick of losing to them.
Actually, we haven't lost now against them in 5 games. This is 5 now in a row that we've not had the Charity Shield.
This is my point. Arteta's last, 18 games against the other big 6, he's unbeaten. He's won 11, drawn 7, lost none. That plucky underdog thing. I get, and I understand the history with City, but it's becoming an increasingly distant history.
I don't think it was anything to do with being the underdog for me, at least. Anyway, it was nothing to do with that at all. It was. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of my nerves in general. I think I said to you, Tabs, last week when we did the preview that what I wasn't looking forward to was the badge, because I always fear the badge with, it's City, it's United, it's Barcelona, it's Bayern. That's the way I look at it. History does a lot to me in that respect, past hurt and all that kind of stuff. But I think in this one, it's genuine, wonderful football niggle. It is just, I do not like you. I do not like anything about you. Exactly the same as when Chelsea, the best example of it. I've felt similar anticipation, excitement, and desperation to win against Chelsea in every single match since they've been in that position that they've been in, and it's been just as joyful when they were utterly shite and managed by the likes of Frank Lampard as it was when they were under Jose Mourinho. And actually, in fairness, we just never won those. So to me, it's just genuine, absolute, utter football rivalry and distaste for the opponent that I think you've just got to absolutely rejoice in. And that's very much the way I see it. I was like it was Stoke as well. I'll tell you now, if we get Stoke in the top, oh my God, I'm like it with Villa. I'm like it with any team from the Midlands, pretty much, actually. But
it's very different. And it's very different to Tottenham. In Tottenham, it's more of a patronising thing at the moment, and it's like, it's irritating. We better not lose to them, but it's, I feel more annoyed about it.
It bloody matters. I'm not even going that. No, I'm not going.
It matters.
I go down the Seven Sisters on a very regular basis. So I'm not walking down there not feeling like there's
But you don't fear them
going on there. But in general, it's nothing to do with the situation they're in or that we're in. Doesn't matter.
No.
Just don't like them.
Yeah.
Just don't like them. And
So-
that for me creates a great football game.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so we do a thing on our pod, like highlights and lowlights of the game, and I do have a couple of lowlights, but we may forego those depending. But guys, I'll start with you, Holly. What was your highlight of yesterday's game?
Do I have to pick just one?
To pick from. You can pick a couple. I mean, I've got one, two, three. I've got about 20 here, so we've got them covered. So go on, pick a couple of highlights.
Just going on my reaction, it was Nwaneri's goal. That was the one that got me running around the front room. I just thought it was like, I know he's had a really productive season, and this is his breakthrough season, as someone commented in the chats there. But for me, this is against City, and it just. What was it, Steph? I think you said earlier, or someone said that he had more touch. He came on the 84th minute and had more touches in the game than Haaland. But I just think, the Wayne Rooney goal against us for Everton, that when a player arrives and does something where you're thinking, right, okay, we've got some player on our hands here. Same with Lewis Skelly as well. But for me, the moment that it was Nwaneri's goal that got me shouting to nobody in particular, but the screen. That's it.
Doesn't matter. And what was your other one? Go on, I'll let you have two.
No. Lewis Skelly's celebration.
Oh,
no, not his goal, just his celebration. I just think that was the balls to do that is just off the charts.
He scored an amazing goal. He scored an amazing goal. His first goal for Arsenal at the Emirates. It's the loudest I've heard it in ages, and the calmness and the people are going to fucking hate him. Opposition players are going to fucking hate him because he riled up the Tottenham fans when he was going off the pitch, and he got booked for the referee manhandling and sticking his finger on his lips, and then that he's.
Well, I love that his first response to scoring his first goal for Arsenal was to wind up Haaland.
Yeah. I mean, if that was any one of us, Jesus, it would be, oh my God, it was just like you just wouldn't know what to do with yourself, and that's just that just sums him up. He's just so cool, so calm, not rattled or anything like that. So that
much swagger, man. He's just absolutely swaggering, isn't he? Like, does not give a toss, and I love him.
Go on, Jamie. Then what was your highlight from yesterday's game?
Well, to be honest, if I'd have top two literally just been taken by Holly right there, because I'm all about them as well. I totally agree. Just pure and utter joy in both of those moments. But I will just add Kai Havertz's goal as well, which just I really liked how incisive we were, and I don't even necessarily mean just the Kai bit, but I loved the ball from. It was Partey, wasn't it?
It was Partey to Martinelli.
God knows how many times now.
Yeah.
Lovely weight of ball. The run, and we just looked. We sometimes look so ponderous, obviously, at various different times. We know that that feels at times part of the DNA of us at the moment. And that just had a little bit of classic mid-era Wenger about it, of just a team that just absolutely revelled in bursting up the pitch and just being super, super incisive, and not very many touches being taken. And his finish was just, was the best of the day, with the exception of Nwaneri's, which is a bit of a different one, won the goal. But it was it was just a gorgeous, clean finish, taken so brilliantly. And after the miss earlier on in the game, which was, it was poor, of course. He's overthought. He's trying to sell the keeper, etc. It was just fantastic to see him get that goal, and hopefully now it's going to make him more effective and not be in his head so much. Because
I was pleased.
I think that's where he's been, and I think hopefully that just takes the weight off. He goes home. He has a great night's kip. He feels phenomenal, and he starts banging in a few on the way out now.
I didn't want that to be the narrative, his miss to be, if we didn't get the result, for that to be the narrative of the game, because he offers so much. And we said the problem is not Havertz, the problem is not having a backup for Havertz. He had a goal, an assist, 4 and 4 shots and stuff like that. So I think he had and there was that one moment where the tackle on the edge of our box to then set up the Martinelli chance. I will be an apologist for Kai Havertz all the time. I'm 100% behind him. The reason people get upset is because he's not what they want him to be, but he's exactly what Arteta wants him to be, and that's what counts. I'm afraid, and that's what counts. And again, so it's that expectation thing. Oh, why isn't he, scoring 30 goals, 40 goals a season? He scored 15 already, this season. But everything else he does is amazing, and he's just such a good player, such a clever player, offers so much. So I will forgive him the things, and he's just not an instinctive. Actually, he's an instinctive finisher. Give him time to think. That's when the issues happen. And you see that run that he made. Everyone's going, why the hell is he running there? Because he knew there was a Bergkamp moment. When you can see that what's going to happen. He knew that he was going to get the ball. Yes, he did. Yes, he made that run.
No way.
He's right. No, because he's not going to shoot on his right foot.
He was shitting himself.
No, and you saw. No, I'm talking for the goal. And you saw.
Yes, and me too.
Yeah, but then who was sprinting down the middle? Odegaard. So basically, the City players didn't know what to do, and he knew if I'm going to shoot here, it'll be on my left foot, and it'll be curling in. And I'm sure that's why he made that run. Otherwise, why else would he make that run?
I wonder if the truth is somewhere between the two of you that have gone with literally the two. I've never seen such such polarity in the interpretation of a goal in my entire life.
The goal, the run.
According to Tabs, this is Da Vinci's goal as well.
No, but what I mean is, he
I'm
had
not going that far. He had a highlight. I didn't say it was literally
He had a picture. He had a picture in his mind of what was going to happen.
Yes, and he shit himself.
He scored. All right.
I love Havertz, by the way. I love him. I think he's brilliant, and I think he's fantastic. And I'd have him in my starting 11 every single game. Absolutely.
Good.
But he shat himself at that moment.
Right. Well, he was a relief man, put it like that. Steph, let's move on quickly. What was your highlight of yesterday's game?
Well, I think I have to sort of give props to the crowd yesterday, which, I mean, in the concourse where we are sort of block 5 and 6, it was good. I've certainly been at rowdier, and so I was like, okay, this is just going to bubble and we'll see how it goes. But North London Forever kicked off with a bang. That was really loud, and then it just built from there. I mean, and like you say, it was the way the goals came. To score so quickly, well, then we were just up and buoyant. Okay, it got a little bit nervy. And of course, when they concede, I was still really pleased that the crowd was very quickly back up, trying to get the team back going, which was really good to see, because I love that when it happens. But to then score quickly and take the lead again, I mean, that was what sent us into overdrive, really. It was really good. And also with the crowd as well. I can't remember being at the Emirates when we've been so relentlessly chanting against one individual. The closest I can think of were the 2 or maybe 3 occasions when Adebayor came back. So he came back for City, and I remember being up in the clock end way before I had a season ticket, and we were basically on him because there were rumours that they were going to get Torres and he was going to be out, and we were just at him. And then, of course, there was the one where he got sent off for Spurs in the 5-2.
Beautiful.
It was carnage. But at the same time, he was then off, so we were on to the next thing. Haaland was there the whole game and had to endure the whole thing. It was just, I had a childish kind of delight about the fact that we were just on him the whole game.
I had that. I had that one. I had the crowd. That Erling Haaland, stay humble. You see you next Tuesday. You got 60,000 people singing that. That's like, it's just organic. It was brilliant. And Ian, Ask Cannon Picks, sent me a message later. He heard some guy trying to explain. His son said, "Well, what were they singing? What were they singing?" He said, "Erling Haaland, stay humble. You can't, So he was trying to explain. So he's trying to explain to him that he can't stay humble, and that's what the crowd was seeing. I thought the crowd yesterday were immense, and the songs and the singing, and it was just it was hilarious. Yeah, and I'm with you on that one.
And
I'm going to go
on hilarious.
No,
just one last thing. Then it was the way that the party goal unfolded to kind of like let everyone erupt. And again, because it's Man City and seeing these things, there's, I don't know, something sweeter about us not, doing a beautiful goal against them, because
2 years running
they've built, well, exactly. And it was
it's so great.
The hilarity of it, because Guardiola's built this thing and everything's supposed to be like machine tool precision. So to bajanks one in off John Stone's arse has its own kind of beauty in it. The beauty,
especially because he scored the equaliser up at the Etihad.
It's just narrative. I'm so big on narrative.
Oh,
and like,
God, yeah.
It's Partey. It's off John Stone's arse, so it's kind of like a bitter look. It's John Stones who scored the equaliser. Phil Foden passing to the referee in
England's
the middle
best
of the
player.
park. I couldn't believe this when I got back, and people were apparently saying that Sky were trying to say that maybe the referee should have stopped the game because he was interfering. Have you ever heard anything so ridiculous in your life? He misplaced a pass. He had a bit of a rubbish game. Honestly, move on. It was just so funny. The whole thing. I just smiled all day. It was just great.
That was great. I mean, Holly, you messaged it. Wasn't it nice against a big team like that to be able to go the last 20 minutes? Oh my God. It was like Chelsea last year, 5-0. You can just sit there and just enjoy it and just watch it and laugh and that's why the Ranieri. I was laughing when the Ranieri scored. I was like, oh my God, what? Couldn't believe my eyes. And it was absolutely gorgeous that we could do that. And against smaller teams, we don't this season we haven't had that chance to sit back and enjoy a real caning of it. It's not like beating a team that we should beat. Like, it's not like when we beat Sheffield United 5-0 that everyone's chatting on their phones. This was like, oh my God, it just everyone's with a massive smile on their face. Well, look, you guys have pretty much picked up most of my stuff. I'm going to give a big shout out in terms of then my high was Raya. Raya was a massive part of why we won that game yesterday. I mean, his saves, that save off Guardiola, his reaction save was incredible. And that, again, okay, City did go on to equalise it eventually, but I think the timing helped. That was incredible. And then the one low down deflected off Saliba, and just the fact that he's just so important to how we build up and how we play, and that's why everyone was really nervous with having Neto in goal over him. He's like, I'd rather have Raya with one arm, playing, because his feet are sometimes more important, So I'll give it to him. And then did you see the City fans were fighting each other?
I did see that, yeah.
Really? They were fighting each other. And then
really revel in a bit of physical violence, don't you, Tabs?
You know me too well.
There sounds like a story there.
Mano is just all like, he just loves it. Absolutely loves it.
Complete opposite. And then
Not
actually
boxing, but you get him a couple of people fighting in the street. He's laying down money like that.
And then actually, I thought the best chant was, "Are you Tottenham in disguise?" Which was that's like, wow, you can't be more. And then we're olaying City at home. I mean, you just got to love it. And any lowlights then? Anything you sort of want to pick out which was a bit of an irritant? Anything that was there to go on, Steph?
Can I jump in with Trossard getting kicked by Bernardo Silva, and just think about the situation there. So it's just bizarre. I never really thought about this, because I'd always sort of quite. There's always a time I'll be watching a game, and whoever's next to me, I might be at an away game with one of my pals, or at the home game with the guys I sit next to, and they'll just say something, and it will change the way I see a player. And I remember it happened a few years ago with Heung-min Son, where someone just next to me said, "Oh, watch him. He's really light on his feet, like goes down easy." And since then, that's all I can see. And yesterday, the guy next to me, Sean, I think his name is, and he just next to me and goes, "You watch Bernardo Silva? He's a little rat."
Oh,
I was like, "What do you mean?" He was just like, "He'll be kicking, he'll be tripping, he'll be nudging people and going," and he did all bloody game. He's like Guardiola's tactical fouler, just like in the shadows, like doing whatever.
Yeah.
And yet, that little kick was as blatant as you'll ever see, and nothing. Just carry on.
He is the biggest of the crybabies. I've written down here, City crybabies, and he's the worst of them. He. I mean, look, he's a very good player. Has been a very good player, and whatnot. But he's such a crybaby. And unfortunately, with that kick, it was one of those ones where had the ref played advantage. Now I don't know why they didn't do this. The ref played advantage, and it went on for so long. And we've benefited from this season that he forgot to give him a yellow because it was just like 2 minutes later before the next stoppage. And I think it was just one of those. Otherwise, because if we didn't have an advantage, yes, he would have been booked because it was right in front of us. They're like, hang on, and that was a petulant kick. And he's yeah, you're right. He is. Yeah. I knew what you were going to say, so I was just going to jump in. He's an absolute.
And like you say, it was right near where we are. And
yeah, don't like it. Anyone else with anything from the game?
The fact that
don't have to find one.
Had a moment of satisfaction was somewhat frustrating. I'm going to say that.
Isn't that better? The fact that they had hope and the
fact that it lasted for so well. No, because it wasn't just hope. That wasn't hope of that scoreline. That was genuine satisfaction, wasn't it? And but the fact that it lasted for so very, very short a period of time was just absolutely phenomenal. So
I thought
it was all made up for, really, but that's all I can really think of. There's nothing else, Otherwise, I was absolutely adoring, the vast majority about the game.
One thing that annoyed me was the yellow card for Odegaard for doing the most He was so frustrated. He did a foul where he got the ball. He was so frustrated, but it was the most not in your face, just the most. I need to show my frustration somehow. And he got a yellow card for doing a pirouette and going and I was like, what the? That was ridiculous. Like, and I was again hoping it wouldn't bite him in the bum. I was thinking that maybe Holly or Jamie, you'd say Gary Neville clutching his pearls about Gabriel giving it to one after the first goal of Haaland. He's the most disingenuous.
Gary Neville got under my
wanker.
skin. Gary Neville got under my skin for like a decade playing for Man United.
Of course.
I'm not letting him do that as a commentator.
You got to remember, I like G Nev's, man. I'm G Nev stan, so I'm good with it.
He's a clever guy. The thing is,
people say stupid things on a regular basis.
No. I don't think he's
football. I've seen you do that, Tabs. We share a WhatsApp group.
No, but I think he's disingenuous. I know exactly what he's doing, and he's doing it to get a reaction and result. And I think and it works.
So where do we sit then? Because I watched a bit of the Monday Night Football earlier while doing a bit of work and was watching them review the Arsenal-Man City game. Carragher was asked what he thought about Mars Lewis Skelly's celebration, and he very much was celebration police when it came to that. He was like, "Nah,
he never scored.
He's a young
That's
lad.
Why.
He's a young lad. He shouldn't be doing that."
It's hard enough.
No. They even better than this. They did a whole. Where they do the little circle and then it magnifies. They magnified Declan Rice. First of all, picking him up, and then doing the whole, switch on thing. And he was basically interpreting that as him saying, as him thinking, well, Declan Rice doesn't like it, and he's telling him to get on. It's
he's just saying, enjoy your celebration. And now we're 3-1 up, and we can't let this slip, because even I bet you at 3-1, and we all thought we weren't losing the game, but I bet you no one thought that we were definitely winning it. And if they got a second goal, 3-3 was on the cards. So
I felt secure at 5.
I think 4 was my one, but yeah. So I think enjoy your celebration. Now switch on, because 3 is against this lot is still not enough, because there's still loads of time to go. So no. Yeah, you're right, and he did the same. Like get down the tunnel, didn't he? After with the Odegaard, it's like, why take the joy out of why take the joy? Just have fun. It's and I don't begrudge anyone celebrating, even Haaland in a celebration or whatever. Yeah, it made make me want to throw up. But it's so hard to score in football. It's the moment. 60,000 people. Fucking hell, just enjoy it, mate. Enjoy it.
The Carragher's is by far the worst. Like that was genuinely petty, and it just came across quite badly. And I entirely agree with Ollie. You can't take a conversation about celebrations from a bloke who hung his head in shame after more own goals were scored by him in his career than actual goals. That's
Yeah, exactly.
70% of his goal involvements were at the wrong end. That's his problem.
All right, so I think there's 10 minutes left of the window. I don't think we're signing anyone. I just want to break that to you guys.
Spoiler alert.
Just in case you had your hopes up. Spoiler alert. Before we move on to the Newcastle game, some stats surrounding yesterday and all the rest of it. And here's a big one for us. Rice, Odegaard and Partey midfield. Played 12 out of, I don't know how many games. Won 10, drawn 2, lost none. Goals 429, goals against 7. That's if we'd had that all season, big different story. Actually, compared to this time last year, Liverpool are only 1 point better off, and we're 4 points worse off. So again, small margins. It's not massive, compared to last year. What else we got? Yeah, Haaland, 3 fouls, 2 passes completed, 1 goal. Did you know the one about him only touching the ball once between the 3rd and 39th minute as well, and then Waneri having more touches than him throughout the whole game in about 10 minutes.
It was so good.
Yeah,
and that plays into what you were saying earlier, Jamie, about like the number 9s around the world. There's just this weird sort of move. And I think, Guardiola himself has done this. He had a big falling out with Ibrahimovic when he had him at Barca, because essentially Ibrahimovic was like, no, I stand in the middle, you give me the ball, and I put the ball in the goal. And Guardiola's like, no, I need you to press, I need you to defend, I need you to drop in, I need you to move to the side. And so there was this big thing, because Guardiola and probably Arteta as well, who's a disciple and not disciple, protege of Guardiola. It's more total football that they want. They want players interchanging position and working in units and all these sorts of things as well, which means that the role of the classic number 9 is very different. And so who is out there to fulfill a role that we want? Are we going to sacrifice what we do with the team? I don't really know.
Isak.
Or do we? Well, yeah, sure. Do we double down on the whole scoring by committee thing and get these more sort of total footballer types? I mean, I don't know enough about Sesko at all. Isak, ticks all the boxes, but apart from the one where we might actually get him.
It's a great point. I mean, part of it is I think there is a degree of culture about this as well. We're now at the stage where it's a bit like where you started seeing a certain type of player coming through in the latter years of Wenger, because he kind of had his hand on the academy for such a long time. And similarly, there's a cultural imprint now of the sort of the post-Guardiola's Barcelona on what a number 9 should be, right? And that is probably what the ruination of the modern number 9 is that we've now got, instead of it being the biggest, strongest, fastest guy who doesn't end up being a centre-back is the one that is the number 9, it's instead now the player who's got the better all-round game, who's able to, who's tactically sound, I mean, let's face it, of the 9s that we had in the past, none of them were particularly hard workers. Thierry was not a hard-working player off the ball. In fact, could be downright bloody lazy, to be completely frank. Thierry Henry did bugger all at certain times, used to moan at him incessantly towards the end of his time with us. And there were many others at the Arsenal that are like that, whereas now you just couldn't employ that player in our system. You could not have a player who doesn't absolutely harry and press, and it's my major objection to Rashford, actually. Regardless of where he is in terms of form, regardless of where he's been last, I think there's a player there. I don't think he's a player for Mikel Arteta. He might be for Unai Emery, because Unai Emery might spend the time and invest the time to get the best out of him. Arteta's not. He's not going to deal with that lack of work rate. When he brought in Havertz, he needed to rehabilitate, and he never needed to rehabilitate his work rate. He never needed to improve that. He was already a hard worker at Chelsea. His off-the-ball numbers were always off the chart at Chelsea. That's the kind of player he wants, right? And I think that is part of the problem that is being solved by the club, and I think it's maybe part of the reticence around Gyökeres as well. I think we've heard things touted about attitude. I wonder if some of that is actually almost kind of on-field attitude as much as anything, because certainly when he was here with Sporting against us, he was reasonably energetic, but in a system that I think rewards quite a lot of high press as he was in at the time. Didn't see him, doing massive amounts. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we do. But I think that is one of the. It's a really interesting take on the death of the nine. To be honest with you, there, Steph. It's 100%. I think that's part of the cause.
Yeah, anyway, so feeling well said. And so are you right? Yeah, goals by committee, and someone who's doing that is Nwaneri with his 7th goal of the season already. He's 17, and he's got a goal at 17, and he's got a trademark goal. And what a fucking goal it is! It's unbelievable. We all knew what he was going to do when he came off.
Yeah. Going to put out
there. Saka's a bit more inside the box and a bit more closer, but this is like amazing.
There's going to be a lawsuit over copyright infringement.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this going to break apart the dressing room?
Yeah, exactly. But Holly, I'll leave you to give the last stat on Nwaneri's goal, the one we were talking about beforehand.
What the uninterrupted passes before it? What was it? 36 uninterrupted passes, 1 minute and 54 seconds. Every outfield Arsenal player touched the ball. I mean, just to retain possession against Man City for 1 minute and 54 seconds with the ball being in play, that's pretty unusual and rare, I would imagine. My other stat for Nwaneri, I'm not sure, I think is only Rooney and Owen have scored more goals before turning the age of 18.
Oh, yeah, he needs to score a hat-trick against... His hat-trick against Newcastle will get him to above them.
Right, okay. But he's not 18 till the end of March, isn't that right? He's got a couple of games left.
I thought it's February.
I don't know.
He's 17 until he's 18.
Guys.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's how it works. And the last stat before we move on to Newcastle is that, and this is the most incredible one, and I could not believe this. City have conceded more goals than
Manchester United.
Manchester United. Unbelievable. Oh, shit. Oh my god. And imagine. Sorry, I was going to say, and imagine, imagine being a football fan in Manchester and Manchester losing 2-0 was a better result. Sorry, Holly.
Nwaneri's birthday's 21st of March.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's got time then. Okay, there we go. All right. Oh, here you go. Here's another teenager one, and you'll like this one, Jamie. Arsenal have had 2 teenagers score in the same league game for the first time since September 1986 against Sheffield Wednesday. Which 2 teenagers were they?
86.
Yeah, 86.
Merson. Perry Grove.
I was going to go for Rocastle or Mickey Thomas.
They're big lads.
Oh, big lads in 86.
Niall Quinn.
That's one.
TA.
And that's the other.
Yes. There we go. All right. That's enough of that. We humbled City. We have to say Quinn's
that.
Had the shout. Sorry, that is absolutely superb. I always forget he had his spell with us.
Yeah, very good. Oh, yeah. No, I think we all liked him. I think in a patronising way. I think we all liked him. But there we go. And I did like the title of your pod. You used humble in every variant.
Yeah, that was intentional.
You're just stealing it from everyone. Yeah. So anyway, talking of humbling, on to the next one. Newcastle away on Wednesday, 2-0 down in the Carabao Cup. The miracle on the time is happening. And I actually said, would you take getting to the Carabao Cup final or making a signing? And I asked my son this, and we both said get to the Carabao Cup final. So the first half of the deal is done. Which one would you have taken? I know it's a bit, now, but if I'd asked you yesterday, which one, signing or get to the Carabao Cup final?
Who are you asking?
All of you.
Right. Well, if we'd signed the striker, he'd score the goals to get us into the cup final.
That's not how it worked.
And you have picked the one. So you managed to pick the one thing that was like less realistic than as signing a 9 as the other option.
You don't think the miracle on the time's happening?
I don't like hypotheticals, Tabs. Come on.
All right, I'll leave you to it, Steph.
I'll tell you what would have really helped, actually. If it was Alexander Isaac that we signed, then that would have been specifically very, very good for the outcome of both, wouldn't it? So,
unbelievable. Okay. What would you have taken, Steph?
Well, for me, yeah, I want to know who the Carabao Cup final is against. Yeah, I'm really torn.
It has to be Liverpool. You do not want to be... This is where...
This is it.
I've got a nervy thing about Ange and the Carabao Cup fight. I've just got a sneaky feeling that his I win something might come. Yeah,
That's
I don't.
really bothering me. I think
His
more
Ten
than
Hag
anything.
moment. Do you think it would be his Ten Hag moment?
Yeah. It will be because
and imagine if it was
he's
against
not
us.
bad enough to get sacked. Go on.
Imagine if it was
I don't wanna
against us.
No, please don't. I'm not imagining it.
Would
Don't.
would you get to the Carabao Cup final against Tottenham, lose to them, and then be guaranteed that Ange stays for another 2 years afterwards? That's another question.
No, I see.
No.
We're not
Win the
Hong Ming Song, or we're not going to miss an open goal and make sure our other opposition sub. No. Anyway, sorry, this is making me sick. Right. Anyway, so
You started with the hypotheticals to us, and now we've bounced it right back. I love it.
This is all right. I don't like it. Ugh. Right. Anyway. And sorry. Before that, the deadline, the transfer window is shut. Right. What are you looking forward to and not looking forward to in terms of tomorrow's game, Holly?
What am I looking forward to?
And not looking forward to.
I'm more buoyed now than I was before the City game. But Newcastle have also lost their last 2 home league games, haven't they? I know.
Yeah.
To Bournemouth and was it who? Fulham.
5-1 and Fulham. Fulham just beat them now 2-1. So 5-1 and 2-1. So 7 goals in 2 games at home.
Okay, so
we only need 3 of those.
I'm looking forward to the 2,000 Geordies who got in touch after our post first leg podcast. To complain that we weren't giving them enough credit. I'm looking forward to that. Bizarre interaction again. I'm looking forward to winning.
There you go.
I don't have anything specific.
No, that's fine. That's all good. Jamie, what are you looking forward to and not looking forward to?
Yann Villa's debut, soon to be confirmed in the next 5 minutes. It's actually something that's snuck under the radar, and they're just sorting out the fax machine for, right? Speaking of which, they still use fax. It's exactly the kind of industry that would still use fax machines.
You'd imagine it.
I am looking forward to. I actually am really feeling a lot more optimistic about this. I have referred to this with complete and utter dread, and referred to it as being that you're about to go and have a living nightmare up there and stuff. But actually, I'm really looking forward to it now. I think something about the City game and the Newcastle results, exactly as Holly alludes to, just makes you feel like actually there is a bit of a game in this, and I'll sit down, watch it, and as long as we don't concede, then I'm going to keep my hopes up somewhere until about the 75th minute, and we'll see what happens.
Do you think it's a bit of a free hit in a weird sense for us?
There's a lack of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think we're probably going to see Ethan start for this one, I think, and it just feels like there's a little bit. There's been a bit about us anyway for a few weeks now, a little bit of niggle and pressure and sort of riding our way through things. And I've said this to you for weeks, Tabs. I do think we're just on the crest of where we're going to go into that massive, great big run, and the City game has got to be the catalyst, and this ultimately should be the one where we push on and keep going. But there is a bit of free hit about it in that if you do lose it, you go, well, that was the other side, really. We did the damage. But I think what you need to do that is you need to get a 0-0, a 1-0, a 2-1, whatever it is that puts you out. You need it to have been to have not have been an actual loss. That's what I really don't want to see, and that's what I'm not looking forward to. Is if we come away with I think particularly if we come away goalless, I think that's a big deal. I think if we come away not having scored, then that's deflating at this stage. Whereas if we come away and it was a 2-2, it's the same result, it's the same goal differential over the 2 legs, but I think the attitude amongst the fan base and everything around the club will be much, much better.
Talking of goalless, the stat Albino. Arsenal have failed to score in 3 of their last 4 matches at St James's Park against Newcastle.
Well, we haven't scored 5 against City at any point since
have managed
just end, have we? So it's fine, mate. It's history. It's fine.
I know records are there to be broken
as well, and I'm absolutely governed by it whenever we play anyone, and especially at St James's Park. But I'm just trying to be positive for once.
No, it's good. It's good.
No, but in a good mood rather than saying to you, you're going to have a rough time.
No, well, look, I'm going. So, and Steph, are you going?
I'm not. It's a school night.
No, it's a school night.
It's a bit
okay,
rich for me.
You're a bit old for school. No, but the worst stat is that we've only just had 1 shot on target in each of those 2 games. So anyway. Go on, Steph. What are you looking forward to, not looking forward to?
I am looking forward to it being over one way or the other.
Yes.
Because it's just. I mean, I am encouraged by a number of things. So there were pictures doing the rounds of Joel Linton, who is reportedly wearing a knee brace. I don't know how serious that is, and it's looking like he's really not likely to feature. And he's someone who's been a bit of a thorn in our side. And
serves him right, as far as I'm concerned.
in the back of Gabriel in recent years, and so him not playing is significant. As you say, Newcastle's recent form. Which could be that classic thing of A, just being bad form, or B, them taking their eye off the ball, because the fever around that club to win any kind of trophy. Because, I mean, taking a step back and going back a few years, Newcastle are a big club. Friendly club, they're in the centre and the heart of the city. It's quite unique in terms of its culture and everything like that. Really likeable until they weren't. And there's just something, I have this thing about context rivals, where you have your competitive rivals. So in the past, it's been Man City recently, Chelsea before that, it's been Man United in the 90s, and so on and so forth. You have your local rivals, Spurs, obviously, and then you have these weird little rivalries that just pop up for a little while. You mentioned Stoke earlier, being
Stoke.
Stoke, exactly, being earlier. I mean, Brighton had a few niggly games after the whole Leno push and all that kind of stuff. Villa at the minute seem to be, because of the ex-players, Man City, and manager and all that kind of thing. I tell you what, Newcastle have a bunch of players, and along with us, there's a bunch of players who don't like each other. There's a bunch of coaches and managers on the bench who don't like each other, and sets of fans who seemingly don't like each other. Newcastle fans, where did you get this chip on your shoulder? Like, what is going on? And the crowing that they were doing after that game, like Holly said, all over our things. We'd never had such a popular bloody show on YouTube, because thousands of Geordies piled in going, well, you didn't give us any prayers, did you? Didn't give us any prayers. Were you talking about us? And we had to point out that we are an Arsenal podcast, and we kind of just focus on us, lads, if that's all right.
Oh, dear.
And so the fact that they might have it, they might be almost tense thinking about this chance of silverware because they haven't won since the 50s or whatever. It fills me with hope. And it's the hope that kills you.
Kills. Yeah.
I love that contextual rivals, though. And I think it's specifically Newcastle and Villa both had these reasons to be positive moments when we were probably at our most recent lows, right? So this is, Villa started, and Villa fans started doing their let's go and buy Emil Smith-Rowe off them. Not when we were trying to get rid of him, but rather when we were desperately wanting to keep hold of him. And Newcastle fans were giving it the old, you're not a rival of ours. Actually, we're the ones chasing top four, and you're sat in eighth. And I think it's brilliant, that idea of the contextual rivals. I completely agree. I absolutely cannot stand them at the moment, but I could completely foresee in 5 or 6 years' time, if they're owned by some completely dodgy manufacturer of shoddy tracksuits again, then I won't mind them at all, and it'll be back to normal, and it'll be fine. And if Villa revert to type, it'll be absolutely fine then. Well, they'll still be miserable and brummies, but I'll get over that, and sometimes feel like they're cute.
Tell us how you really feel, Jamie. Come on.
If I'm looking forward to one thing, it is that free hit. I think there's something in the situation where it's just clarity of the mind. And not that I never want to go out of the FA Cup, and I especially don't want to go out of the FA Cup to Man United, but because we are out the FA Cup, no midweek game next week, you go for it. You go strong. There's no thinking about the weekend's fixture and the fact that we need goals. You go strong and positive. So let the chips fall when they may.
Yeah, we'll come on to the lineup in a minute. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going up, so I'm not looking forward to going up all that way, being stuck up in the gods, and not seeing us at least score a goal. I want to let's celebrate something. We go 1-0 up, and it's there for the taking. They'll start getting a bit nervy. I think it will go to extra time. I've got a feeling it might be, one of these. It'll 3-1 or something like that, and it go to extra time or something like that. So, but it's a long way to go. And yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. There's a few Grovers going up, and it should be a fun trip. In terms of looking forward to, I actually went to uni in Newcastle. Well, I say in Newcastle, I was actually at the Poly, which turned into Northumbria University, and I've not been back for 30 years, not since I graduated. So interested in just going back to go down the quayside and see what that's like, and yeah, so it'll be interesting just to have a look at Newcastle.
Newcastle's a great place. You'll have a great time.
Yeah, so it'll be good. So we'll try and wrap up in the next 5 minutes. In terms of lineup, as you said, I think we're going to go strong, and I think there's only really two positions that we need to worry about, and that's left back and then the wingers. So any thoughts on the lineup? I know Holly and Steph, you guys, you'll normally predict your lineups for the games.
Well, I've gone Calafiori at left back, and I think he'll. The fact there's no game after this might mean he'll play Nwaneri from the start, but I've kind of settled on Martinelli and Trossard as the two wide players. I think Nwaneri off the bench, but again, start him, great, no problem with that, and no problem with Lewis Skelly starting at left back either. I think as we've observed recently, Calafiori as an option off the bench in an attacking sense. After we went down to 10 men against Wolves, I kind of bemoaned that substitution where Calafiori came on, but it was actually Steph, you were at the game when you said he carried the threat forward in a way that who came off Nwaneri wasn't doing, perhaps.
Yeah.
So,
when area that game. Go on, Jamie. Sorry.
Stick him on the right wing, I say. It's like an absolute freight train, isn't he? I absolutely love him going forward.
Yeah. But Neto in goal, no, and you, Steph, what you
on
thinking?
Paper, I've done exactly the same thing. I've only got one change, and it's Calafiori, because there's something in our formation shape that the way the fullbacks play is what gives us the platform to then attack, and Calafiori is this front foot fullback when he's in that position that I think. Lewis Skelly, great at holding the fort. I mean, literally, Haaland was bouncing off him. I've never seen anything like it. And he's an 18-year-old. He's made of fucking granite or something. He's amazing. But Calafiori, look, we need goals. And I think in terms of it sounds stupid given that Skelly scored at the weekend, but Calafiori will give us that kind of front foot kind of positioning, I think. That said, there's an element of what will Newcastle do? Do Newcastle shut down from the start? In which case, you might need a lock picker like Nwaneri. But my feeling is that what you do is you do it like most games where you play Martinelli and say, right, run yourself into the ground for an hour, tire them out, get them thinking, keep them on their toes, then we'll bring Nwaneri on and we'll absolutely scramble their brains and see what happens. So I think it will just be a Calafiori change from the weekend.
Jamie?
It's an interesting one in particular. I totally appreciate where you're coming from on that from both of you, but I'd actually prefer to see MLS just from the point of view that I get worried about Calafiori defensively, to be honest. I think he's got real turning circle issues, and I think that what Newcastle do have are wingers and strikers that do like to spin, and I don't think he can spin with anybody, to be completely frank. That's my major issue with him. Straight line speed, he's actually pretty decent, as say, absolute freight train. But I worry about his awareness and his speed of thought and speed of movement in those particular situations. And don't get me wrong, Newcastle's wingers aren't always the best, actually, some of the ones they turn out. There's only really Gordon that worries me massively. But we have been exposed by them a bunch of times just due to the way that Eddie Howe uses those wingers. They're very, very quick in transition. They tend to hit one-time balls out of midfield and look to put the ball between the centre half and full-back and allow those wingers to move into that channel. Very, very Theo Walcott-esque kind of movement. And I don't really want to see Calafiori exposed to that personally. And that's my major concern. But otherwise, if he does play, fine, he will definitely help us out going forward because he's perfect in that respect. And he's a bit blood and thunder, real stallionish kind of bloke, not to go off stereotypes. But the other one that's interesting, 100% is Nwaneri. And I'd love us to do it because I think, again, against the defence that can be stodgy there, and especially with a goal up, he's got the magic that we're so often missing in the final third. So I'd like to see those two personally.
I think same 11 as against City. Beat them 5-1. You go again. You won't know game of the weekend, and you have game changers like Calafiori, like Waneri off the bench, who are going to be more impactful. I would suggest that's what he's going to do. And it's like Anfield '89. You can lose it early, but you don't necessarily win it. So you go 1-0 up, you stay in the tie, 20 minutes to go, then see what happens, and you don't have to go out gung ho. You just need to be in the game, even 0-0 with 20 minutes to go. You get one, and because you don't have to win it in 90, so just long we can get to extra time. And
they will be nervous.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be a bit more conservative. I would go with MLS and yeah, same 11. I would go same 11. They're buoyed, full of confidence. They won't be tired. You don't get tired after beating Man City 5-1. You're full of energy. You're just full, and you can't say to any of those players, "Oh yeah, I'm going to change." We're not in giving minutes to people territory.
Not protecting Lewis Skelly's legs a little bit. He's very young.
For what?
He's played a lot of you don't listen. Waneri
he wasn't taxed yesterday. He had hardly anything to do. He had a couple of things at Haaland. A few runs forward, nice shot.
Waneri came a cropper in the Brighton game after he played consecutive league games.
I would suggest that they are, I think, built differently, and stronger. And I think Waneri's protected, and we knew that, and that's why we only gave him the minutes we did, and we only gave him longer minutes because we had no other choice, and that's it. Lewis Skelly, he's made of granite. Everyone's susceptible stuff, but I don't think he's going to get an overuse injury like Waneri did against Brighton. So I've got no fear of that. But no, I hear the concern, but nah. We're fine. They are on cloud 9 at the moment, and they're gonna do it. Well, are they going to do it? Go on, let's have your predictions and let's get out of here. Holly,
we'll win 2-1.
So we're getting knocked out then. Okay, Steph.
Well, this is odd for us because I've predicted exactly the same, Holly. 2-1 us.
Can I change my mind? We're winning 4-1.
Jamie?
2-0 goes to extra time, and Kai Havertz scores the winning penalty.
Oh, it's going to penalties.
If we're gonna be telling stories here, let's do a proper redemption, shall we? Right.
and why not?
Otherwise, it misses as well, and we that's it for me.
3-1 after extra time.
Because what time are you getting home at if Jamie's narrative comes through?
Oh no, well, I'm staying up. I've got a cheap place staying up, so I'll come back the next day on the 10 o'clock train. So, okay, so there we go. Thank you for that, guys. We've made it through. Thank you if anybody did watch or anyone who's listening. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the comments, people who did it. That was fun. I enjoyed this, and it's a real pleasure to have you guys on, Holly and Steph. So thank you for your time. And how can people find you and listen to you after they've found and listened to us?
Go on, Steph.
Oh, go on then. So we're on all the socials at North Bank Pod. It's the same one everywhere you go. We have our own website, thenorthbankafc.com as well. And yeah, wherever you get your pods, all the usual places.
Excellent stuff. And is it you, Steph, that I'm bantering with? In inverted commas on the
socials?
Blue Sky.
Yeah, I'm the sort of social media manager.
You're the one. I have to ask, who is it? The one that? Where do you find these single questions? And you're single. You're always how many times?
So you're talking about our profile that's on Threads, the kind of attachment to thingy. I think something happened when I first joined it. There were these just random. They're almost like life coaches who are like asking questions about where do you find your inner strength, and I just started answering random Arsenal like answers. My inner strength comes from Emmanuel Eboué and stuff like that. And my algorithm now is absolutely like messed
brilliant.
up. But it's just I've just carried that on. I'm trying to get a similar thing going on Blue Sky, but to no avail. They're very much pushing American news and politics at me, which I don't really want, but
No.
I'll see what I can do.
I like that. I was just wondering because I was wondering, as I'm sure you've set up another account to raise these questions, and
No.
Really good. Okay, and thank you, Jamie, for today. Always a pleasure to have you on. Always a pleasure to have your thoughts. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I leave with one thought, by the way, that I didn't get out when it was appropriate earlier, and that's
Go for it.
I'm really hoping that next summer we end up with such a fantastic summer that in the same way as we had the Edu cooking and all that kind of stuff, is Jason Ato's name not just made for being called the Jasonator? Like, and I just see it as being a thing. So I'm just filled with this thought that if it takes off next summer, if we have a great one, I'm going to be all over the socials giving it Jasonator everywhere and seeing if I can make that a thing. Like,
I like it. And
meme made. It's like Terminator. It's great. Anyway,
all right, bring it out. Just do it anyway. And I have to also call out Darwit. Thank you, Darwit, for being behind the scenes, making sure this all happened technically. Thank you very much for that. It's run amazingly smoothly. So just want to shout out to Darwit in the background from the Grove. And look, it isn't the transfer window we wanted, that we hoped for, but let's not forget we are still a bloody good team. We humbled City 5-1. The miracle on the Tyne is just around the corner. There is a lot to be grateful for. It's football. It's meant to be fun. Shit happens. Let's just enjoy it for what it is, and be kind to each other. And look, you can find us at the Grove AFC at all the usual places, and we'll do a post Newcastle pre-Dubai podcast towards the end of the week. And all that leaves me to say is until the next time, come on you Gunners.